I came across this article in Harvard Business Review about how to work for overly critical bosses. I've worked for a few overly critical bosses. I've worked with some overly critical people, so I have some thoughts. Let's take a look at this article and let's dive into how we can keep our sanity when we're dealing with criticism. All right, so this article is in Harvard Business Review under the category of managing up, how to work for an overly critical boss. It talks about, obviously, the problems that come along with working for a critical boss. Every task, no matter how small, seems to invite scrutiny. Meetings feel like inquisitions, and you spend your days hearing more about what's going wrong than what's going right. And this type of boss can create an environment where you feel a lot of unpredictability. You feel a pervasive and consistent negativity that causes you to second guess your decisions and interactions. This critical nature typically has more to do with the boss's own insecurities, bad experiences that have made them overly cautious, or a fear that is causing them to feel like they need to maintain control. While understanding this is helpful, continually trying to figure out the complex motivations behind a manager's criticism can often be futile. The article states that managing up to a highly critical boss doesn't mean abandoning your own judgment or following their orders. Rather, it's about proactively taking control of your interactions and taking steps to reduce emotional toll that their behavior has on you. So they suggest here viewing feedback as engagement, and I found this very helpful, separating tone from content. If there is a gem of constructive criticism in something that a boss like this might be saying, try to pull that out and take that as constructive help. Leave everything else behind. So it's saying do your best to mentally strip away the emotional charge from your manager's words. Imagine the feedback being delivered neutrally. An example here, this report is totally unacceptable to there's some issues that need to be addressed. I've been in situations where you hear somebody say all of these things in a very positive tone, and the overall message is this report is completely unacceptable. Like, people can read between the lines. It's really important, though, that you keep your sanity in the midst of this type of thing. The second thing that they suggest is getting ahead of the negativity and going to your boss and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this. Do you have any initial thoughts? So that at least you get on the right track rather than toiling away for days or weeks to craft the perfect deliverable, creating a first draft and then saying, hey, this is what I've got together. It's rough around the edges, but I want to capture core ideas. And then your boss can take control and you can conserve your energy. They also suggest putting them on the spot and asking, please tell me how I can improve. I'd like to know what's going well so I can do more of that. Is there room for you to share your perspective? And they've got some examples here. This is all linked down below so you can take a look at the article yourself. The whole yes and technique, it can be helpful in a situation like that. When your boss is giving you something critical, you can say, yes, I understand this, and I believe we can be just fine. And adding a positive statement to discharge some of that negativity. And they suggest also remembering that not all feedback is equally valuable or actionable. You can't and shouldn't take action on every criticism. You need to have a mental filter to determine what's most urgent, important, and relevant to respond to. And then when your boss is giving you positive feedback, make sure you reward them for that good behavior. And then, of course, there is this statement down below that if you are in a situation like this, that it's important to consider making bigger changes to protect your mental and emotional well-being and to seek out a work environment where you are truly valued. Now, of course, this article got me thinking. I've worked for a number of bosses who are extremely critical. I've got a lot of experience in dealing with this type of personality, and I wanted to share 5 ways that I have used to work with or to manage up a highly critical boss. The first thing was to get to know them as a person. You need to know who this person is, what their motivations are, what are their goals, what are their aspirations. You can read a lot of someone's personality just by listening to the things that they choose to talk about, listening to the things that they say to figure out what drives them, what motivates them, what are the things that they really like, what are the things they like to spend doing in their off time, what are the things that they dislike. You can get a feel of their patterns of behavior. If you just started working for a highly critical boss, it's really time to listen. It's time to listen to the things that they tell you. I once had someone say that you can get to know everything you need to know about an individual and how they're going to treat you within the first 20 minutes of meeting them. They will tell you everything that you need to know in order to interface with them. You just have to listen. Rather than going into a conversation trying to prove your worth, listen to what the rules of the game are going to be. You have to get to know the motivations and the personality of the boss that you are working for. What excites them? What really triggers them and sets them off? And what things are they trying to accomplish? If they own the company, what is their reason for even having the company? Did they start their company because they really wanted to be of service, or they have some other psychological need that they're working out? When you understand the psychology of the boss you're reporting to, it's much easier for you to communicate with them. The second thing you need to do is ask questions. When your boss says something critical or says anything at all, ask for more information. Ask, why did you like this? Why did you hate that? What about this do you prefer? What about this did you not like? And what is your vision for how you would like this to be? What would make this better? You could be asking those types of questions about someone else's work that doesn't even have anything to do with you. It's almost even better if you ask those types of questions ahead of time about other things unrelated to you, because then you can get to know the personal preferences of your boss, which can make communicating with them when things are a little more strained much easier. Number 3 is to leave decisions to them. Now, I was working for one boss and we had a website. There was something on the website that everyone complained about. Customers complained about it. Employees complained about it. But our boss did not want this removed from the site because he believed that it was something that was driving revenue. So we added some trackers to the site so that we could actually see what was happening and measure, get some actionable data. That way we could go to our boss and say, hey, this needs to change, and here's the data to show that it is not going to make any impact removing this particular thing that is annoying everyone. We had all kinds of subjective data telling us that it wasn't working, and we had no objective data telling us that it was. So once we had all of the data, I made the mistake of making the decision. We had no data to support that it should be there, and all of this data telling us that it shouldn't be there. So I made the decision to remove it. That was the wrong thing to do. What I should have done was to bring it to my boss and say, here's all of the data. What would you like us to do? I was criticized. Not because I made a bad decision, because I did make the right decision and I had the evidence and the justification for making that decision, but because I didn't turn that decision over to my highly critical boss. So, do you really need to make decisions? Do you feel like you're serving yourself by making those kinds of decisions? Just let it go. Let the highly critical boss make the decisions and keep your peace and sanity. Number 4. And maybe this should be number 1, because we really do need to put ourselves first when we're dealing with highly critical bosses. Number 4, though, is to know yourself. Know how you're motivated and know what your fears are. Know what your carrots and your sticks are. Know what lights you up, but also know what things might drive you to make fear-based decisions. Now, in that previous example where I decided to remove an element off of the website because I had both subjective and objective data to prove that that was the right decision, my fear was that I was going to be called indecisive or be told that I wasn't a leader. I was going to be criticized for not making a decisive decision based on the evidence at hand. My fear drove me to make a decision that I would have probably left up to my boss to do. It's really important that you know what that fear is. that might be driving you to react to a highly critical boss in a certain way. Also know how you're motivated. If you know that you're motivated in a certain way and you know what rewards you and you know what doesn't, knowing all of that helps you make better decisions about what it is that you're doing so that you can preserve the things that are most important to you. Now, if you are motivated as an achiever, for example, and accolades and doing things on your own is very important to you, but your highly critical boss wants you to work more as a team and put your own motivations on the back burner, a side hustle might give you the outlet that you need in order to feel that you have a creative outlet that is all yours. Knowing yourself is critically important. Otherwise, you're going to be making decisions based on what your emotions are telling you in the moment. When you're dealing with a lot of criticisms, emotions go haywire. Sometimes you start second guessing yourself, wondering whether or not this highly critical boss is actually correct and whether or not you belong in the organization at all. Remember who you are, what you were hired to do, what your job is, and what you're there to accomplish. Number 5, it's really important to keep boundaries, your own personal boundaries, and to keep perspective. To remember that working for this highly critical boss is not something that's going to last forever. This isn't a life sentence in this organization with this one person having dominion over you. Make sure that you realize that this is just part of your day. This is just for now. And really set your boundaries of what is acceptable and not acceptable. Speak up if it is possible to your boss to make sure that they understand how their criticism affects you and put this all into perspective. There has to be a reason why this is showing up in your life right now. It has a lesson for you. Once you learn the lesson, typically these things fall apart, right? Once you get the message that you are more powerful in this situation than you think you are, these types of things tend to solve themselves on their own. Once you dissipate the emotional reaction and take ownership of the things that you can control in this experience, this tends to be a paper tiger type of situation. Your hypercritical boss might even start believing that you're one of the greatest assets in the organization. They feel like you understand them. They feel like they can only speak to you and you're the only one that really understands what they want. But in order to get to that place, you can't have an emotional reaction to this. You have to find a way to protect your mental health, protect your boundaries, and protect that perspective and understand what you're there to do. You have to be on mission. You have to be in your purpose. You have to know who you really are and why you're there to begin with. There's something that you want. It's more than a paycheck. I know it is. You're there for a reason. There is some motivation that brought you to this position. Hold firm to that because that is who you are. That is your purpose. And once you work through whatever lesson this has for you, it will dissipate and you'll come out stronger on the other side. Have you dealt with a hypercritical boss in the past? Do you have lessons that maybe I can learn from or other people? Drop those in the comments down below. I'd love to hear about it. And if you are still in search of who you really are and what your motivations are, Motivation Code is the assessment that can help you better know yourself. Perhaps it might be something that is helpful for your boss and your organization as a whole. Maybe if your boss got to better know themselves and their motivation, some of those unconscious drives that drive them to hypercriticism can dissipate. Motivation Code is linked down below. Take a look. It's a really cool assessment that works on your stories, really unique science behind it. We'll see you in the next video.